Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the English Learning Podcast, where we help you speak English with confidence and ease. I'm your host, Jason.
And I'm Julia, your co-host. We're so happy you're here with us today. If you've ever forgotten an English word right when you needed it, don't worry, you're not alone.
That's right. Forgetting words is something every English learner experiences. Even native speakers sometimes struggle to find the right word. So, today's episode is going to be really useful for you.
Yes, because today we're going to talk about how to remember English words. We'll share simple techniques, fun tips, and real examples that will help you keep new words in your memory so you can actually use them when you speak.
Exactly. It's not just about memorizing a long list of words. It's about learning in a smart, easy, and enjoyable way. We'll show you how to make English words a natural part of your daily life.
So, if you're ready to stop forgetting and start remembering English words for good, stay with us. Let's dive right into why people forget English words so easily.
All right, let's get started with a very common problem. Julia, have you ever learned a new English word, felt excited about it, and then completely forgot it the next day?
Oh, Jason, so many times. I remember studying a list of words for hours, and then when I wanted to use them in a conversation, my mind went blank. It was so frustrating.
I think almost every English learner can relate to that. And the reason is simple. Our brains are designed to forget information that we don't use often. It's called the forgetting curve. Basically, if you don't review or use new words, your brain will decide they're not important and will let them fade away.
That makes sense. So it's not because we're bad at learning, it's just how our memory works, right?
Exactly. Our brains are like a big library, but only the books you read often stay on the front shelves. If you learn a new word but never see it, hear it, or use it again, your brain moves it to the back shelves, or even throws it away.
Wow, I wish I had known that earlier. I used to feel guilty, thinking I was not good at learning languages because I kept forgetting words.
And you're not alone, Julia. Another reason people forget words is trying to memorize too many words at once. If you study a long vocabulary list with 50 new words in one day, your brain feels overwhelmed. It's like pouring a huge bucket of water into a small cup. It just overflows.
Oh, I've done that. I used to make long lists and try to remember everything in one night, but the next morning I could only remember a few words.
Exactly. Cramming doesn't work for long-term memory. And here's another reason people forget. Not connecting words to real-life situations. If you learn a word, but you don't have a clear image, sound, or personal experience attached to it, it's harder for your brain to keep it.
That's true. I remember the word umbrella so well because one day it suddenly started raining and someone lent me an umbrella. That experience made the word stick in my mind.
Perfect example. When a word is connected to a real experience or emotion, it becomes easier to remember. So, the key is not to just memorize words from a book, but to link them with actions, pictures, sounds, or even funny stories.
So, to sum up, people forget English words easily because they don't review them regularly. They try to memorize too many at once. They don't connect words to real-life experiences.
Exactly, Julia. But don't worry. In the next part, we're going to talk about how the brain remembers words and how you can use that knowledge to remember English words forever. Okay, Julia, now that we know why people forget words, let's talk about the good news, how the brain remembers words. If we understand how memory works, we can use it to our advantage.
That sounds exciting. So, Jason, how does our brain actually store new words?
Great question. Think of your brain like a big network of roads and highways. Every time you learn a new word, your brain builds a small road for it. But if you never travel on that road again, it becomes overgrown and disappears. On the other hand, if you keep using that word, the road gets bigger, stronger, and eventually becomes a highway.
Ah, so the more I practice a word, the stronger its road becomes in my brain?
Exactly. Repetition builds strong connections. That's why reviewing words regularly is so important. But there's another trick. The brain loves patterns and associations. If you connect a new word to something you already know, it becomes easier to remember.
Like when I learned the word delicious, I connected it with my favorite food, pizza. So now every time I think of pizza, I remember the word delicious.
Perfect example, Julia. You made an emotional and personal connection. That's a powerful memory technique. Our brains also remember things better when we see, hear, and feel them. So, if you see a picture of an apple, say the word apple out loud and imagine its taste. You're using multiple senses. That helps the brain store the word in a deeper way.
So, using pictures, sounds, and even actions can make learning words more effective?
Yes, that's called multisensory learning. The more ways you connect with a word, the more hooks your brain has to pull it back later. Another important point is emotion. If a word makes you laugh, smile, or feel something, you're more likely to remember it.
That's why I never forget the word awkward. I had an awkward moment in English class, and now that word is stuck in my head forever.
See? That's how the brain works. So, to help your brain remember words, use repetition. Make personal connections. Use multiple senses. Add emotion or funny experiences.
This is really helpful, Jason. Learning words isn't just about memorizing, it's about making them part of your life.
Exactly. And in the next part, we'll talk about a common mistake many learners make: confusing active vocabulary with passive vocabulary, and why that matters when trying to remember words. All right, Julia, before we jump into memory techniques, there's something really important we need to explain: the difference between active and passive vocabulary.
Yes, I remember hearing these terms, but I didn't really understand what they meant when I was learning English. Can you explain it simply, Jason?
Of course. Passive vocabulary includes all the words you understand when you read or listen, but you don't usually use them when you speak or write. Active vocabulary are the words you can easily use yourself in a conversation or writing.
Oh, so for example, I understand the word complicated when I read it, but I've never really used it in my own sentences. That means it's in my passive vocabulary, right?
Exactly. It's sitting in your brain's storage room, but you haven't brought it out to use yet. The problem is, many learners focus only on building passive vocabulary. They watch movies, read articles, and understand a lot, but when it's time to speak, they feel stuck and can't remember the words.
That's so true. I used to think, I know so many words. Why can't I speak fluently? I guess it's because those words were passive, not active.
Yes, active vocabulary requires practice in using words, not just recognizing them. It's like learning to ride a bicycle. You can watch videos about riding a bike, but you won't learn to ride until you actually try it.
That makes sense. So to move words from passive to active, we need to use them in real conversations, right?
Exactly, Julia. And not just once. You need to use a new word several times in different situations for it to become part of your active vocabulary. Speaking, writing, even thinking in English helps.
So maybe I should challenge myself to use 3 new words every day when I talk to my friends, or even when I'm just talking to myself?
That's a fantastic idea. The more you use the words, the stronger their connection becomes in your brain. Active practice is the key to remembering words when you need them.
I love that. So listeners, don't just learn new words, use them. Speak them, write them, and even think them. That's how you grow your active vocabulary.
Well said, Julia. Coming up next, we're going to share some powerful techniques to help you remember English words easily and quickly. All right, now let's get into the good stuff. Practical techniques that will help you remember English words easily and make them stick. Ready, Julia?
I'm ready, Jason. I wish I had known these techniques when I first started learning English. It would have saved me so much frustration.
I hear that a lot. So let's start with the first technique, chunking words into groups. Instead of memorizing long lists of random words, try grouping words into categories or themes. For example, group words related to food, travel, emotions, or business.
Oh, that's smart. So if I learn knife, fork, spoon, and plate together, it's easier to remember them because they belong to the same kitchen category.
Exactly. Our brains love patterns and connections. It's like organizing your closet. If everything is in its place, it's easier to find.
What's the next technique, Jason?
The second technique is using visual images and mind maps. When you learn a new word, don't just write it down. Draw a picture of it or imagine a funny image in your head. You can also create a mind map. Write the word in the center and connect it to related words or ideas.
That sounds fun. For example, if I'm learning the word cat, I can draw a cat, then connect it to words like fur, whiskers, purr, and meow in my mind map.
Perfect. By creating visual connections, you make the word easier to remember because your brain now has a picture to hold on to.
What if someone says, "But I'm not good at drawing"?
Good question. You don't need to be an artist. Even a simple stick figure or just imagining the picture in your head works. The point is to engage your brain visually.
Got it. What's the next tip?
The third technique is creating word families. This means learning a root word along with its variations. For example, if you learn the word happy, also learn happiness, unhappy, happily.
Oh, I like that. So instead of learning one word, I'm learning several connected words at once. That must make remembering them easier.
Exactly. It's like buying one tool and getting all the accessories with it. This method helps you use words more flexibly in sentences.
That's really helpful. Do you have any more techniques?
Absolutely. The fourth technique is using real-life context. Instead of memorizing words in isolation, try to learn them in real sentences or situations. For example, instead of just learning the word umbrella, learn it with a sentence like, "I carry an umbrella when it rains."
That's a great tip. When I learn words in sentences, I can remember how to use them naturally.
Exactly. This also helps with grammar and sentence structure. And one more technique. Practice by teaching. If you can explain a new word to a friend, or even pretend to teach it, you're forcing your brain to actively process the information, which makes you remember it better.
That's a fun idea. I can pretend I'm a teacher and explain the new word to my imaginary class.
Yes, teaching is one of the best ways to learn. It forces you to understand the word deeply, not just remember it.
So to sum up, the best techniques to remember English words easily are chunking words into groups, using visual images and mind maps, learning word families, learning words in real-life sentences, teaching the word to someone else.
Exactly. These techniques are simple, but very powerful if you use them regularly. And coming up next, we'll talk about one of the most effective memory tools used by language learners around the world: spaced repetition. All right, Julia. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful techniques for remembering English words for the long term. It's called spaced repetition.
I've heard that term before, Jason, but I'm not exactly sure what it means. Can you explain it in a simple way?
Of course. Spaced repetition is a method of reviewing words at specific time intervals to help your brain move information from short-term memory into long-term memory. Instead of cramming everything in one day, you space out your reviews over days, weeks, and even months.
Oh, so it's like giving my brain little reminders so it doesn't forget the word?
Exactly. Imagine you plant a seed in your garden. If you water it once and forget about it, it dies. But if you water it a little every few days, it grows stronger. Learning words is the same. Your brain needs regular watering. That's what spaced repetition does.
That makes sense. So how often should I review a new word?
Great question. There's a simple pattern many learners use. Review the word on day 1, the day you learn it. Review it again after 1 day. Then after 3 days. Then after 7 days. Then after 14 days. Each time, you increase the space between reviews.
Wow, that's really organized. I can see how that would help me remember words for much longer.
Yes, because every time you review the word, you're strengthening the memory pathway in your brain. The spacing allows your brain to almost forget it, and then when you review, it reminds your brain that this word is important.
Are there any apps or tools that can help with spaced repetition?
Absolutely. Apps like Akin, Quizlet, and Memories are popular for this. They automatically schedule your reviews using spaced repetition algorithms. You can also do it manually with flashcards by setting up a review schedule yourself.
That's cool. I think using an app would help me stay consistent. Sometimes I forget to review on my own.
Exactly. The key is consistency. Even spending just 5 to 10 minutes a day reviewing words can make a huge difference over time. And remember, the goal is not to review a huge list of words every day, but to review small chunks regularly.
I like that. Small, consistent steps. It feels less overwhelming and more manageable.
Exactly, Julia. Spaced repetition is like training your brain gently but effectively. Over time, the words will move from short-term memory into long-term memory, and you'll be able to recall them easily when speaking or writing.
That's amazing. So, listeners, if you want to remember English words forever, spaced repetition is a must-try technique.
Well said, Julia. And in the next part, we'll talk about how you can make words stick even better by using them in your daily life. Now, Julia, let's talk about one of the most important things learners can do to make sure they don't forget new words, using them in daily life.
Yes, I remember when I used to learn new words, but I never really used them. They just stayed in my notebook and slowly disappeared from my memory.
That happens to a lot of learners. The truth is, if you don't use a word, you'll lose it. But when you start using new words in small daily situations, they become part of your active vocabulary.
So, Jason, how can learners use new words daily if they don't have someone to practice with?
Great question. The good news is, you don't always need a partner. Here are a few simple ways. Talk to yourself in English. For example, when you're cooking, describe what you're doing. I'm chopping vegetables. Or when you're walking, say, I see a beautiful garden.
That's a fun idea. I sometimes practice English when I'm cleaning my room. It's like having a conversation with myself.
Exactly. It might feel strange at first, but it's a powerful way to practice using new words. Another method is writing daily sentences or a short journal. At the end of the day, write 3 to 5 sentences using the new words you've learned.
I used to write short diary entries like, "Today I was very productive. I organized my desk and felt satisfied." That helped me remember words like productive and satisfied.
That's a perfect example. The key is to make these words part of your own life stories. Another tip is to label objects in your home with sticky notes. For example, put a note that says mirror on your mirror or refrigerator on your fridge.
Oh, that's a smart visual reminder. Seeing the word every day helps your brain remember it naturally.
Exactly. And finally, if you do have friends or online communities, try to use new words in chats or voice messages. Even small exchanges like "I'm feeling energetic today" can make a big difference.
So basically, don't wait for a perfect conversation. Just find small ways to use English words in your daily activities.
Yes, the more you use new words in real-life contexts, the more natural and automatic they become in your speech.
Listeners, try one of these today. Talk to yourself, write a short journal, or label objects around you. You'll be surprised how quickly new words stick in your mind.
Great advice, Julia. Coming up next, we'll explore a fun and powerful way to remember words by turning them into stories. All right, Julia, let's move on to one of my favorite techniques for remembering new words: storytelling.
Oh, I love this one too. Storytelling makes learning so much more fun and creative.
Exactly. The idea is simple. Instead of trying to memorize a word by itself, you create a short, funny, or memorable story using that word. Our brains love stories because they connect emotions, images, and context all together.
That's so true. I remember when I was learning the word embarrassed. My teacher asked me to create a funny story with it. I said, "One day I went to school with my shirt inside out. I was so embarrassed that I hid in the bathroom."
That's a great example, Julia. And I bet you never forgot the word embarrassed after that. Exactly. When you create a story, even a silly or crazy one, your brain forms strong connections with that word. It's like turning vocabulary practice into a movie scene in your mind.
So, Jason, how can our listeners start using this technique?
Here's a simple way. Take a new word you want to learn. Think of a funny, surprising, or emotional situation where that word is important. Tell yourself a short story using that word, even if it sounds silly. For example, if the new word is gigantic, you could say, "Yesterday, I saw a gigantic ice cream cone that was taller than me. I had to climb a ladder to eat it."
That's a fun image. I'll never forget the word gigantic after imagining that.
That's the power of storytelling. You can even make a story challenge, where you pick 5 new words and build a crazy story using all of them.
That sounds like a fun activity to do with friends or even alone. Plus, it makes learning feel like a game, not homework.
Exactly! And the best part is, you'll remember those words much longer because they are now connected to a personal experience.
So listeners, don't just memorize, make up stories, be creative, and have fun with new words. It really works.
Perfectly said, Julia. Up next, we're going to talk about another super effective trick, using mnemonics and associations to lock words into your memory. All right, Julia. Now let's dive into one of the most powerful memory tools, mnemonics and associations. These are simple mental tricks that help you remember difficult words by creating funny or strange connections.
I love mnemonics. They've saved me so many times, especially with words that just wouldn't stick in my brain.
Exactly! A mnemonic is like a shortcut for your memory. You create a silly sentence, rhyme, or image that helps you remember the word. For example, to remember the word bizarre, which means strange, you can imagine a bazaar, market, where elephants are selling ice cream.
That's so weird, but I'll never forget it now. Bizarre sounds like bizarre. That's clever.
Exactly! The crazier and more unusual the image, the better your brain remembers it. Another trick is breaking down words into sounds you know. For example, the word subtle sounds like subtle. You can imagine a submarine that is very quiet and subtle underwater.
Oh, that's a good one. I used a mnemonic for the word desert and dessert. I always remembered that dessert has 2 S's because you want seconds when you eat dessert.
That's a classic. Little tricks like that can make vocabulary learning so much easier. Another powerful method is associating words with personal experiences or famous people. For example, to remember the word brilliant, think of a brilliant light bulb, or even a brilliant friend who's really smart.
I used to picture my favorite teacher whenever I heard brilliant. That made the word feel personal and easier to recall.
That's perfect. Associations can be visual, emotional, or even sound-based. The goal is to give your brain an extra hook to grab onto the word. The more personal or funny the association, the better.
So listeners, don't be afraid to get creative and even a little silly. If a word is hard to remember, create a funny image, a rhyme, or connect it to something you love.
Exactly. Mnemonics and associations turn boring word lists into playful memory games, and that makes learning so much more enjoyable.
Coming up next, we'll discuss some common mistakes learners make when trying to remember words and how to avoid them.
All right, Julia, let's talk about some common mistakes that English learners make when trying to remember words. Knowing these can save you a lot of time and frustration.
Yes, I definitely made some of these mistakes when I was starting out. What's the first one, Jason?
The first big mistake is trying to memorize too many words at once. Learners often think the more words they cram in one day, the faster they'll learn. But actually, this overloads the brain and leads to forgetting.
I've been there. Trying to learn 50 words a day sounds great, but by the next day, I only remembered a handful.
Exactly. It's better to focus on a smaller number of words and review them regularly. Quality over quantity. The second mistake is learning words only in isolation, just memorizing word lists without context.
Oh yes, I used to do that. But when I tried to speak, I didn't know how to use those words in real sentences.
Right. Learning words in sentences or real-life situations helps you remember their meaning and how to use them naturally. And the third mistake is being afraid to make mistakes when using new words.
That's so true. Sometimes I didn't use new words because I was worried I'd say them wrong or look silly.
But making mistakes is a natural part of learning. If you don't use the words, you'll never remember them. So don't be afraid to practice and make errors. It's how you improve.
Great advice. So to sum up, avoid these mistakes. Don't try to memorize too many words at once. Learn words in context, not just lists. Don't be afraid to use new words, even if you make mistakes.
Exactly, Julia. Keep these tips in mind, and your vocabulary will grow faster and stronger.
Jason, I think one of the biggest challenges learners face is feeling discouraged when they forget words. It can be really frustrating.
Absolutely, Julia. But here's the truth. Forgetting words is completely normal and part of the learning process. Even native speakers forget words sometimes.
That's so comforting to hear. I used to think I was bad at English because I forgot words all the time.
No way. Forgetting means your brain is working. It's like muscle growth. You need to stretch and sometimes feel sore before you get stronger. The important thing is to keep practicing and not give up.
Yes, every time I forget a word, I try to review it again and use it in conversation. Slowly but surely, the words start to stick.
Exactly. So listeners, don't be afraid of forgetting. Use it as a signal to review and practice more. Your brain is building stronger connections with every try.
Remember, learning a language is a journey, not a race. Be patient with yourself and celebrate every small progress.
Well said, Julia. Keep going. And soon you'll surprise yourself with how many words you remember and use. All right, Julia. We've covered a lot today. To finish up, let's share some final practical tips and a simple daily routine that listeners can use to remember English words effectively.
Great idea, Jason. So, what's the first tip?
First, consistency is key. Even if you only spend 10 to 15 minutes a day practicing new words, doing it every day will help your brain build strong connections.
Yes. Small daily steps beat big but rare efforts. What else?
Second, mix your learning methods. Use flashcards, write sentences, speak out loud, listen to podcasts, and watch videos. This multi-sensory approach helps words stick better.
I like that. It keeps learning interesting and uses different parts of the brain.
Third, review regularly using spaced repetition. Don't just learn a word once. Review it several times over days and weeks.
And don't forget to use new words in real life. Speak, write, and think in English whenever you can.
Absolutely. Now, here's a simple daily routine you can try. Spend 5 minutes reviewing old words with flashcards or an app. Spend 5 minutes learning 3 to 5 new words using images, stories, or mnemonics. Spend 5 minutes writing or speaking sentences with the new words. Spend a few minutes talking to yourself or practicing the words in daily life.
That sounds doable. Just 15 to 20 minutes a day, but very effective.
Exactly. The goal is to make vocabulary learning a fun and regular habit, not a stressful chore.
So listeners, pick a daily time that works for you and stick with it. Your English vocabulary will grow faster than you think.
Well said, Julia. That wraps up today's episode on how to remember English words. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone. Practice these tips, and we'll see you next time on the English Learning Podcast. Keep learning and keep smiling.